Hi friends, it's Jana Eubank, and today I'm sharing a double page layout that I created for Scrapbook Cards Today Magazine for their fall 2023 issue. I love creating double page layouts. I love that I can add lots of photos and that I have a continuous look across both pages. For today's layout, I am using the die cuts with a View Humble Abode premium stack, and I tried to use everything from the stack, or as much as possible from the stack. So you'll see me do a lot of fuzzy cutting to create my embellishment clusters, and we're just going to have a lot of fun with this today. Now, the first thing I do is I always hold up my photos to all the different papers and decide which one it looks best with. So I chose to put my photos on that lighter blue diagonal stripe paper. From there, I worked backwards. I chose the navy paper for the very background, and then I matted both of those pale blue blocks with the gold, or with the yellow color. I didn't want too much yellow on this page because there is a lot of yellow in the photos, but it does pick up on it a little bit and makes it feel cohesive, I guess is the word. From there, I wanted to add a punch of pattern. I didn't want it to be all too subtle, so I did go ahead and add those two plant border strips to kind of bookend each end of the layout. This adds a nice punch of color and more excitement to the page. Now from there, I am going to start fussy cutting out all of my embellishments. You can see that I did the cat with the books from the 3x4 card. I had the plant and the typewriter from different pattern papers, and of course those houses. Now this is when I moved my daughter to college, and so all of these different pieces actually have meaning to this layout, even the cat, and I'll tell you those stories as we go along. The houses work well because it's her home away from home, and that's actually going to be my title. I initially had cut out some larger houses, but I felt like they were too big once I placed the other embellishments there, and that I would be overcrowding that corner, which is where I wanted to place my title. So I did pick out some smaller houses and tried those. Next, I'm going to add some phrases. It's always good to mix in some words with your icon images, and so I found a few that were not card oriented, and I'm going to add those to the photos. Now, I want to tell you about the cat. I actually don't tell this story on this particular layout, but my daughter and her roommates decided that they needed a cat, so they snuck a cat in. They adopted a cat and snuck her into their dorm later on in the year, and so it was actually an orange cat. And so I think that's so funny that this collection included a stack of books with an orange cat and that phrase that said "a book in my hand and a cat by my side," because that is my daughter. Now, the typewriter, I chose the one that said "Bloom where you are planted" because this is her college year, right? We want her to flourish and grow and have new experiences, and so I thought that worked well there. So now that I have the base of my design, I'm going to come back in with a few more strips of color just to add more visual interest and to tie both sides in together. Now those plant strips that I cut earlier, they are not the same width. They vary a little bit. That's because I do want to add variety. I don't want this layout to be an exact mirror image of each other. So, think of that. If you're going to mirror an element on both sides for continuity, try to vary them a little bit. And I do the same thing with the solid color strips. You can see on the left side, I do like a pink color with blue, and on the right side, I put the green, the salmon, and I will eventually put the blue, all three together. So I'm just trying to add variety. I'm going back and finding some more icons that I can add in. I found the little scooter that I'm going to place in front of the houses just to create more of a scene. And now I'm ready to add more horizontal elements to this layout, just for more pattern and interest. So anytime I create a double page layout, I always add a horizontal image, whether that's a photo block or a long border strip underneath the photos, something like that, that will tie both pages in together across that seam of the page. Especially when I'm placing my layout in a D-ring album, I need something that will bridge that gap in between, that gutter gap. So that's why we did that there. Now, if you have a If you use what are they called? Strap hinge album, you'll have less of this issue, but that's just something I like to do. I did fussy cut out a yarn ball because I had so much yellow going on. I felt like that yellow yarn ball that I had put in earlier kind of disappeared, so I fussy cut out a larger one in the green color to also tie in with the green border accents. Okay, so now that I had the strips picked out, I decided that I wanted to add more variety to those plain cut strips that are by the plant border. So I'm going to use a scallop border punch to cut this. This is one by EK Success. It's older, it's no longer available, but hopefully you have some pattern scissors that will work, or you have a smaller scallop punch. There are lots of options out there. You can also always hand cut these using a template. All right, so now that I know what my base pieces are going to look like, I'm going to get these in place, and then that will help me to start embellishing in more detail because things won't be moving around. I do dry fit most of my layers and my embellishment clusters before just kind of place things to decide while I'm making decisions. And so that way I don't get things too tacked down before I change my mind a million times. I'm a very indecisive scrapbooker, so that is why. So I also placed those horizontal strips and the photos, and after I did that, I wanted my main photo of my daughter to really stand out. So I decided to matte this one photo on a contrasting color. Now at first I did do this yellow floral just because I thought it was so sweet and I liked the way that it looked against that blue paper. However, because the photos are quite yellow, I do end up changing that. I end up changing that to a green color. I will first change it to a green like branch patterned paper, but I end up deciding to fussy cut a bunch of those branches out. So I will change it again to a green confetti dot. So that's coming up soon. Right now I'm starting to put the embellishments back in place how I had them, and now I'm really going to get down and dirty and start making decisions on these embellishment clusters and actually adhering them in place. So all of my background layers, the paper strips, the paper blocks, everything like that, the photos even, and the photo mats, I always keep that fairly flat. Sometimes I'll pop up a photo here and there with foam tape, but most of the time I keep all of those layers flat, and then I will pop up everything in my embellishment clusters and my title. That just helps to bring those pieces forward and make the page feel more dimensional and textural. So that's what I like to do. Now here I had these little yellow fussy cut scissors that I have up by the plant and the typewriter. I liked that because it looked like a little desk scene in her dorm room, right? Well, I decided to place this yellow "Love This Life" phrase next to the typewriter, so I am going to move those yellow scissors just because there was too much yellow happening over there. So I do move it over to the left page just because there weren't any little yellow elements over there, and I pair that with the blue phrase. Now because of that, that's when I did decide to change out the main photo matte to green, and I will change that paper a few times like I discussed earlier. So here I'm kind of moving the houses around. I'm afraid I don't have enough room for my title in the upper left corner, so I considered moving them below the main photo, but I will end up only using one house, and I will do something different below that main photo. I will use one house, but that will be by the title, which will be in the upper left corner. So here's where I start working on fussy cutting all those branches. You can see that I switched out that main photo matte to the lighter green, which actually ties in with the sage green strips in the background. You can also see that I've done some stitching on those panel layers, and things are really starting to come together. So I've added in some fussy cut branches, and now I'm ready to turn my attention over to my title. I want to make sure I have lots of room for my title. So the items I'm using today to create my title are from the Stamp Market. This is the Something Extra Alpha stamp and the coordinating Something Extra die. So it's an inline alpha die stamp, and I love it because you can die cut out the letters and then you stamp this color onto them. I decided to use embossing powder, so I'm trying to match the colors of the background paper. I had that navy with the light powder blue color in the very background base color, and so I'm going to repeat that in my title by using a navy cardstock base and then stamping it the inline color in that powder blue, which I think looks super super cute. I wasn't sure if I wanted to add a white shadow layer below these letters, but I opted not to because the letters are quite detailed looking, and adding a white shadow layer in there just made it look too busy. But I did pull out some adhesive fun foam and die cut these letters again, creating my own thickness or thickers, I guess, stickers. So I just adhered all those paper letters to the foam, and now they're all dimensional, which is great. I pulled out an old letter set. These are little tile letter stickers from October Afternoon. They were the perfect salmon pink color, so that felt good to kind of dig into my stash and get some of those used. And then I completed that little cluster there by the title. Now I'm moving on over to creating a cluster of embellishments or icons below that main photo, just to add some more interest there. So I went back to the pattern papers. I fussy cut out 2 more plants, and then there's a pattern paper that has all kinds of beauty supplies like an eye mask or sleeping mask, a hairbrush and comb, some lotions and makeup, which I think is perfect for a dorm room. My daughter actually does sleep with a sleeping mask, and so that worked out perfectly. And then of course that hairbrush and the lotion are very girly and go along with moving into your own dorm as well. So now that I had that little cluster built out, I also came back and added in more leaf branches, and now I'm adding some journaling strips to this page. I have just the what we were doing, which was moving my daughter to college and the date on the left side of the page, and then I created a larger oval shaped block to go on the right side of the page. Sorry about that. Speaking of my daughter, she just called me on the phone. So anyway, I'm jumping back in. I chose to do an oval shaped journaling block on that right side page just to add in a softer line because I have so many straight strips and so many photo blocks. Now, earlier I used that scallop strip to kind of break up the edges of the strips and add in some variety. I'm also going to add in more borders here along the bottom. I thought this notebook edge border punch would be really cute, especially because this is a college themed page, and this notebook border edge will tie back in with the theme of school in a very subtle way. So super cute. Love how that came together. Now, I told you the story about the orange cat and how they snuck this orange cat into their dorm. So I just thought it'd be cute to, even though there weren't 2 cats, I'm going to add another one to this upper right corner to build out this cluster a little bit by this typewriter. He's just so cute. I love kitty cats, and that was a major thing. So I also love all the little plants in here. My daughter loves plants. You can see above her dorm window she hung some fake plants, and then she also I don't think I have a good picture of this, but all along the top of her room she also placed lots of greenery garlands. And so I love how all of these little greenery twigs and branches from this collection tie back in with that. So the final detail that I'm going to add into each of these clusters are these hearts that I cut out using a Heavy Doodle die. So you can see, even though we have multiple embellishments going on and they have different icons in each one, I am using similar pieces in all of the areas of the embellishment clusters to tie them together. And that is in the form of those salmon pink hearts and those leafy branches. You can see those in almost every single cluster that we have going on there. The final detail that I will add to those hearts are just some little cleared tiny gems by Close to My Heart, just to add a bit of sparkle to this page and to finish it off. So again, this is the Die Cuts with a View Humble Abode collection. I love how this page turned out. It was the perfect collection for this page of my daughter moving into her dorm. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Jana Eubank. We'll see you next time.